First, though, in this part of the programme, I want to talk to you about the reasons why people in abusive relationships are sometimes compelled to stay with their partners. Why? Well, a man from Bedford who pleaded guilty to hitting his partner with a wheel brace will be sentenced at Luton Crown Court later today. Evidence from a witness who saw the assault and the statements of officers who found the woman with a bleeding head wound led to John Kinsella pleading guilty to actual bodily harm. What's interesting about this, the victim at the centre of the story, who cannot be named, has written to the judge saying her partner John is not guilty. Why? Well, it transpires she wants him to avoid prison as she wants to marry him. John Kinsella has 11 previous convictions for 14 previous offences, but it would appear none of this has put his partner off. She still wants to stand by his side. Well, as we await the news from the court about the length of John Kinsella's sentence, I'm interested to hear from you. Do you understand why some people stay with abusive partners? Do you get it? Have you experienced it yourself? Have you seen it firsthand? Maybe a friend or a relative of yours, you've seen them staying by an abusive partner and you've worked out why, what it is. 03459 455 555. Of course, if you need us to give you a different name in order to protect your identity so you can tell the story, I'd very much like to hear from you. Natalie Collins runs a consultancy called Spark, which works to prevent and respond to violence against women. Good morning to you, Natalie.
Good morning.
Good morning. You would kind of imagine on the face of it that if somebody's partner hit them over the head with a wheel brace, that would be a bit of a clinching factor in terms of whether you want the relationship to go forward or not. I think I personally would see that as probably curtains for the relationship. This woman does not. She wants to marry him. Do you get it? Do you understand why she wants to stand by an abusive partner?
I think it's a very complex picture. I think one of the interesting things that in my work, when I tell people what I do, their immediate kind of question is, well, why do women stay? Why don't women leave? And it's really interesting that nobody ever asks me, well, why don't men stop being abusive? So it's really interesting how we focus on what the woman should or shouldn't do. Actually what he shouldn't have done is he shouldn't have hit her over the head. Essentially he's the one who's committed a crime. It's not actually a crime for her to make those decisions. But understandably, people who haven't been in that situation are thinking, well, I can't understand that. However, some of the things that I think are really useful for people to understand is firstly that there is a physiological process called trauma bonding. It's often known as Stockholm syndrome, where kidnapped victims fall in love with the person who's kidnapped them. That physiological process exists when we're put in a situation of risk or trauma, and we will bond with the person who we go through that trauma with, and the bond is unable to distinguish between, well, is this person causing the bond or not causing the trauma or not. And so actually there are physiological issues, there's psychological and emotional issues, because actually for me to admit that my partner is violent or abusive rather than just troubled or having a few problems and maybe it's partly my fault, that's a big deal to have to come to that conclusion. So actually sometimes denial is the best solution, or can feel like it. Like maybe if I just imagine that he can be better, and maybe it's just that he's having a stressful time at work, etc., etc. If we stay in that place of denial and justify the behaviour, then we won't feel it so bad. And I think also we live in a society which socialises women to accept abusive behaviour. We only saw the case the other day with the judge kind of giving a suspended sentence to a man who had done terrible things to his partner. So I think there are wider societal issues as well as the individual choices of a woman.
Let me just go back to the trauma that you talked about, because that's really interesting. So in layman's terms, are you saying that sometimes the woman will actually fall more in love with her partner because of the abuse?
It's not love, and that's one of the things that actually it can feel like love. It can feel like this strong, deep desire, like I love this, I want to be with this person, I need to be with this person. But actually what it is a physiological situation that what we need, the primary human need is for attachment before food, before water. And if, say, we were in a train crash with somebody, or as we saw in the 9/11 attacks, that actually people who go through something traumatic with another person, their experience of that is that they build a relationship with that person. There's a bond with that person.
So like a dependency. Like a dependency.
Yeah, well, no, it's more just it's an attachment, and a very, very strong attachment. And then the problem is that actually the brain doesn't go, well, this person is causing the trauma, therefore I shouldn't feel like this towards them. And so it actually makes it very difficult to make rational decisions, because we're in a situation where our body's going, I should want to be with this person. And so it's not about addiction,
strange.
it's not about love. It's just the reality of how humans are designed to function. That we're designed to attach to other human beings. That's what babies do. That's what adults do.
Yeah, but I mean, generally, I mean, look, we're all human beings listening to this. I mean, that just doesn't. I can't identify with that, because I, as a human being, if somebody does something bad to me, whether it be something abusive or whether it be something rude or something unkind or something physical, my instinct is to sever ties with that person, to push them away. It's certainly not to get closer to that person.
Yeah, and I think it's about understanding the wider context. So this physical violence that this woman was subjected to will not be the first incident of abuse. There will have been controlling behaviours. This partner will have likely isolated her from friends and family, will have told her that she's worthless, that she's useless, that she can't cope without him. And so there's lots of patterns of behaviour that build up, which reduce this woman's ability to make decisions that don't make her feel like, well, it's my fault, I need to change it. And in the early stage of a relationship, when we first meet someone who's abusive, they look like anybody else. They don't kind of start by saying, right, I'm going to beat you. They start by saying, oh, I really like you, I want to spend all my time with you. Oh, maybe you shouldn't see your friends as much as you see me. Maybe you'd look better if you wore the clothes I chose. And so the whole kind of coercive control, the whole manipulation starts. And then by the time they're physically violent, we don't have as many resources to make good choices, or to make choices to say, actually, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore.
Okay, good to talk to you, Natalie. Thank you so much. Very interesting. Natalie Collins runs a consultancy service called Spark, which works to prevent and respond to violence against women. Diane has called in to share her experience. Hello.